Welcome back to the Parrot Podcast. I'm your host, Sandra, and I'm so excited for this episode, as I am for every episode, but this one in particular because we are being super festive, and this is our Halloween podcast episode. We're going to be joined by a special guest, and you probably already know her because she's been on the podcast a few times, and we have become bird mom besties. So we're having a Halloween party, and you guys get all of the Halloween and pumpkin spice scoop that we're going to chat about, and that's with Bird Nerd Sophie. And you can find her on Instagram and YouTube, Bird Nerd Sophie. Her and her partner, David, also offer consultations for parrot behavior and training and diet and all those types of things. So you can find them at Best Behaved Birds. And today we're going to talk about pumpkin spice and everything birds. So join us for our Halloween party. And as we get dressed up, I'm dressed up as a cat. And I know it's really basic, but in fairness, this is a really scary costume if you have birds, because cats are very scary for birds. And we know that cats hunt birds. They are predators. So this is a really scary costume is what I'm trying to say. And let's get Sophie in on this party.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm like blasting music, dancing. I was so excited. Oh, I got a little pumpkin on the bed too.
I haven't carved it yet, but I thought, you know what? He can come as well and just sit on my bed.
I love your headband.
Thank you. This one keeps like trying to, is it this one? One of them keeps like going woohoo. So we'll let it go.
I walked into the store and I'm like, okay, Sophie's gonna have something cool, so I have to have something cool. And I found these skulls, or I found these cat ears, and I'm like, the skulls are cool, but I would love to do the cat ears. And then I thought, this is a really scary costume anyway, because we have birds.
Very true. I tried to take some pictures of me wearing these with the birds earlier, and it was chaos. Screaming, flapping. I was like, guys, it's a headband. I managed to get like one picture with Kipling, but this, I mean, they can deal with they deal with fireworks, no problem. Jet engines, no problem. A headband with some pumpkins on is the worst possible thing ever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so silly.
Funny. I was worried that Mia, after I did the whiskers, that she'd be like, what is going on and who are you? But she's been completely fine. Sophie, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
So I know that it's October. Halloween is coming up next week. And I was like, let's have a Halloween party, a bird mom bestie Halloween party.
I mean,
we're so festive.
I'm ready. I've got my witch's brew.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And what do you have in your cup?
So I've got this pumpkin spice cold brew coffee with almond, and I haven't tried it yet because I wanted to try it on camera for you.
So excited. Wait, is it cold or did you warm it up?
It's cold, so it's like a cold brew thing.
Oh,
so
okay. I know this brand. They have it in Canada. Try it.
It tastes like a bar of soap. Let me try again. Hang on. I don't know how I feel about it, but it's pumpkin spice, so we're gonna go with it. It's in my little cauldron. I'm gonna pretend I like it, and if not, I've got some squash over there.
Oh no! Hold on. Does it have even a pumpkin spice flavor to it?
Yeah, like a very artificial one. I like the other ones in this brand, but this one, it's not ticking the box. I'm more of a gingerbread latte girl anyway. But I'm going to drink it because it was like £3, and I waste my money. It's not my favorite.
Oh, well, I'm not having a PSL, and you know how much I love pumpkin spice lattes. I'm a pumpkin spice latte girl, and I'm that girl that as soon as September hits, I'm like, where are all my earthy tone sweaters? I need my boots, my Uggs, and I need to go to Starbucks to get a PSL. I am that girl, and I love it. But I can't have coffee in the afternoon or else I'll be up until 3 a.m. So I have a pumpkin spice tea, and it's decaf.
Very nice.
So it's by Stash. And honestly, I've been drinking this stuff for a while and I love it. And my review is that it's really tasty and it has like a more of a natural pumpkin spice taste.
I should have got one of those instead, I think. I think that would have worked better. But we're
Well,
here now. We're gonna roll with it.
if you can
Yep,
get your
so-
hands on this stuff, then get this tea for fall. Okay, let's talk about spooky season stuff with our birds. You have
Mhm.
2 Halloween YouTube videos and I watched them and they were so awesome and I loved all of the ideas that you shared and then I went grocery shopping and I'm like, right. So I need bell peppers because I'm going to carve those because that was a really creative idea. I need pumpkins and all these different things. So I went shopping and got all this stuff, but I want you to share some fun and festive food ideas or activity ideas or foraging ideas that people can do with their birds. 'Tis the spooky season.
It's the spooky season. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. Like in my video, for example, we carved like bell peppers, kind of like you do pumpkin carving, but obviously bell peppers are slightly more kind of parrot sized and filled it with chop, and the birds loved it. We did a spooky smoothie in this mug. That's why I bought this mug in the first place for that video, and I've just kind of kept it this whole time. And that was like banana and spinach and other bits and pieces in this. It was like bubbly and green and fun. And then we did radishes carved out, put blueberry in so it looks like an eyeball. That was really fun. But there's lots of different ways that you can get creative. I mean, pumpkins themselves are fantastic, like nutrition wise for your bird. And if they're in season, it's absolutely worth including that in your chop. But even this time of year, like any kind of seasonal time of year, you'll often find children's crafts to be quite cheap. So you often find like paper cups with like Happy Halloween on it. As long as there's no plastic coating, grab those, put a hole in it and a little bit of string, put some, crinkle paper in there, hang that up in the cage with some treats in. That's a Halloween thing.
Yeah,
Crinkle
a
paper itself.
DIY Halloween toy.
100%. And just crinkle paper itself, I bought so much at Easter of crinkle paper because when it's in the children's aisle, 99% of the time it's going to be safe for birds because it's used with non-toxic stuff. So I have so much left over, it's ridiculous. But you'll
That's
often find
awesome. I need to buy more actually.
yeah.
Mia's like, yeah, you better buy more.
She knows. So yeah, I mean, see what's out there for people. Make sure it hasn't got like a plastic sheen on it, but the only limit is your own creativity and how you can kind of adapt that for your birds.
Yeah. And with your little red pepper, green, yellow pepper, the bell pepper jack-o'-lanterns, I love that in the chop you included pumpkin. So that makes it even more festive. And I was like, my next chop is going to definitely include pumpkin. So let's talk a little bit about pumpkins. Why are pumpkins so great and so nutritious for our birds?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of reasons why. They're high in vitamin A, which a lot of birds are deficient in. They're high in vitamin C, which is great for eye health and immune health overall. They're high in vitamin E, which is great for skin health. They've got loads of antioxidants in them. So that again, that's supporting the overall body health of your bird. But the other cool thing about them is they are very nutrient dense but low calorie. So if you do have an overweight bird or you want to get lots of nutrition in without worrying about overfeeding and things like that, then pumpkin is a really great option for that because it's just one of these, it's kind of like a superfood, I guess you'd call it, because there's just
fall
so
superfood.
The hero of October is the pumpkin. So yeah, if you
even for mom's coffee.
Exactly. Definitely worth including when it is in season. It's such a shame that it's only in season for a short period of time because it's really nutritious.
Yeah, we don't get pumpkins often. So when I see them, I'm like, I need to do something with these pumpkins because they only come around once a year. I don't really see them like in the winter, in the spring, or the summer. So fall is the time to stock up on pumpkins. And how do you feed pumpkins to your birds? Like, what is a safe way to prepare pumpkins? I know some people like to cook them. Some people like to offer them raw. What do you think?
So raw is perfectly safe. Again, a whole myth out there about it's not safe. Raw is perfectly safe for pumpkins and other squashes. And that's how we feed it. We only really feed raw food. We don't cook any foods for our birds. So that's fine. However, if you lightly steam it for about 30 seconds in the microwave, it does make it slightly more digestible. And that's not to say that raw is not digestible. It just increases the amount that can be digested from it. So it's completely up to you if you want to do that. The whole part of the pumpkin is edible. Obviously, you need to wash the skin first because it's been in the ground, so it's going to be covered in dirt. But the whole thing is edible. So if you do have large parrots, or you have like a huge flock of them, that you can just give them a pumpkin and be like, off you go, enjoy, and they can shred the whole thing.
Then it's perfectly safe.
Yeah, 100%, perfectly safe, as long as there's obviously nothing to suggest otherwise. You know, no mold on there, which you wouldn't feed that to your bird anyway. But as long as you've cleaned it and it's in good shape, then absolutely the whole thing is safe. We tend not to feed like the stringy bits, like I think you call it like the pith or whatever it is, just because it's annoying. It gets everywhere, it gets stuck to everything. So I take that out. I mainly feed the flesh and obviously the pumpkin seeds themselves as well.
And if you have like a large flock or like macaws and you offer them an entire pumpkin and they eat that stringy part, is that safe? Because I remember in your video, you said that if they eat too much of it, it can get like congested in their crop.
There's always a risk with like super stringy stuff. I more say it is like a precaution. Like you don't want to just be feeding that, just like with the strings off of celery. Like you don't want to feed only that. You want to be just monitoring what you're offering. But you know, with an overall really healthy diet with the raw whole food nutrition, there shouldn't be any issues with the crop itself anyway. But the whole thing is completely safe. And the pumpkin seeds, as I said as well, pumpkin seeds are a huge favorite with all of my flock. All you need to do is get yourself like a nice sieve, get that pith and the pumpkin seed in there, run it under the tap and kind of separate the two. Then I just let them air dry. Again, some people bake the pumpkin seeds. It can kind of make them last longer when you dry them out. But I don't know, for me, I just kind of dry them out, air dry them, make sure they're dry, put them in an airtight container in the fridge, and then that normally lasts for about a week. And with my flock, you know, it's normally gone within a week as well. So,
well, you've got 8 birds in your flock.
I do.
Yeah. So with me, I feel like it would last so much longer. So, but I would also go with that method because I feel like the fresher, the better. So when you wash them, I know you wash them in cold water and then you put them out on a paper towel. And I think you said you leave them out to dry for 8 to 12 hours, right?
Yeah, as long as it takes. You kind of just disturb them a little bit, see if they're air drying nicely. You can kind of pat them down with some more kitchen roll, paper towels, whatever you want. But air drying is totally fine. Again, this time of year, especially for us, is just cold, so you don't have to worry about it being out in hot weather.
Yeah.
So normally overnight, it's usually kind of dry by the morning, and then pop them in an airtight container in the fridge.
Perfect. And then they're great in the fridge for a week. What if I wanted to bake them? How long do I bake them for? And on what temperature?
So on a low temperature, you don't want to like cook them, you know, crazy. You want to have a nice low temperature so it slowly cooks them. Again, when you heat at high temperatures, you kind of destroy the nutrition in there anyway. So if you have to cook your birds, you want it to be on a low temperature. It really depends on your oven. Again, you know, different types of ovens take as long as they take. It can take an hour, 2 hours. So it's always good to just keep an eye on them, check them every 10 minutes, turn them over, and kind of go from there. Again, it's another reason why I don't do it, because I just can't be bothered to faff about chicken and pumpkins every 10 minutes. So
I don't have time for that. I'm the same as you. I would just like to air dry them. And I know like with pumpkins, so you can feed it raw, you can steam it, which makes it a little bit more digestible. But what if you wanted to cook it? Can we cook the pumpkin? Yeah, I mean, I know it's going to kill a lot of those nutrients, but say we're making pumpkin soup and we're like, well, I have this cooked pumpkin. I'm going to offer some to my birds. That's perfectly safe as long as you let it cool down.
Yeah, as long as there's no extras are in there, no salt or oil or anything. If it's just a pumpkin,
just plain,
then you can offer it. Other than the nutrition potentially being destroyed, the other thing you need to bear in mind is cooked foods go off faster than raw foods, because obviously when you heat things up, it destroys the cell wall. So, you know, we always say when you're feeding chop, you can leave it out for the whole day. It's not going to go off. It's not going to hurt your birds, nothing like that. That's because we feed raw. If you fed a cooked chop, that's probably going to go off in a couple of hours because the cells of those items have broken down. So that's why we're so passionate. Well, one of many reasons why we're so passionate about feeding raw is because you can leave it out for longer, make sure your bird eats enough of it. You're not having to worry about, okay, I need to pull that veg out because it's going to go bad. So if you're kind of just having some one-to-one time with your bird and you want them to try a little bit and you're there, then absolutely go for it. Just bear in mind that cooked foods go off a lot quicker.
That's a very good point, because I always make a fresh raw chop as well, and I'm like, I know that it's fine all day, like it's not sitting in the sun or anything like that, like she's indoors. But you're right, the cooked food is going to spoil a lot quicker. So something to keep in mind. But I do want to add with the cooking part that sometimes if there's birds who are new to vegetables or they're getting introduced to vegetables and you're trying different methods of getting them to try, then cooking is one way that you can get them to taste those vegetables or maybe entice them to try them. But keeping like cooked food, you want to make sure that it's been cooled and you're not offering it hot, and that after a few hours you've removed it, because it's going to spoil a lot faster.
Yeah, exactly. And also you don't want to cook it to the point where it's like super mushy, because again, mushy food simulates regurgitated food, and that will potentially make your bird hormonal. There's nothing wrong with doing a little bit of cooking or steaming if you are doing diet conversion, but long term, birds don't eat cooked food in the wild, so they don't need to eat it in our homes. And the veggies are perfectly fine as they are. So yeah, it really depends on your individual situation, but raw is always going to be best.
Yeah, for long term, for sure. Yeah, I meant for diet conversion.
Yeah, for sure.
And how do you find your flock with the pumpkin seeds? Like the first time you offered like the pumpkin seeds out of the pumpkin, because I usually buy them and they're like already, green.
Yeah.
But the fresh ones, the first time you offered them, were they like, what is this? Or were they like, yeah?
So some of the birds like pumpkin seeds more than others, but they prefer them in that form. They prefer them in the little white casing. They don't like them as much when they're the green, like the innards. They prefer it that way. So when I offer them, because normally I would buy them and they're more expensive to buy when they're in the little white case, they're like, woohoo, let's go. We've got so many of these. Let's indulge. So yeah, they loved it. So hopefully anyone watching, your birds will enjoy it too.
Yay! And I noticed that when you were doing your little bell pepper craft, I love this because I bought all the ingredients and I'm going to be making it for Mia this weekend.
Amazing.
So I was like, I need to write this all down. You put some of the pumpkin seeds in there. I remember you stuffed it with, I think it was kale and some greens. And then you put some of the chop that you made, which included raw pumpkin. And then you sprinkled those pumpkin seeds. And then on top, you put a seed and pellet mix.
Yeah,
and some sprouts.
You can kind of just go wild. It's kind of like, when we make kind of stuffed peppers for us, it depends on your diet. You may have like minced meat, or you may have like a veggie alternative. Yeah, I mean, just use things that are bird safe and fill it up. Obviously, it's kind of like a one-off treat, and they're not going to eat everything that's in there. They're probably going to shred it. They're probably going to make a mess. So if you do have, for example, leftover chop, that it's it's not going to last another day, chuck it all in there, let them make a great big mess out of it, and just have a bit of fun. Yeah.
I love it. And I wanted to go back a little bit to the smoothies, because you made a witch's brew spooky green smoothie and it looked really delicious. Did you also try it?
Of course, I love a smoothie.
I know. I love smoothies. I make smoothies all of the time, and Mia loves dipping her beak in my smoothies.
Oh yeah.
But the thing with smoothies is when we make them for ourselves, there's a lot of things that we can add in there that might not be safe for birds. I know a lot of people like to put avocado and protein powders and all these different things. So when you're making smoothies that you want to share with your bird, we want to avoid all those things and just use water as your base. That was your liquid base. And then greens and veggies and fruits that are safe for our birds are always good. And I noticed that you used a banana in yours, which is what I use in mine, to add that like sweetness and like frothy foaminess. And the riper the banana, the sweeter it is. I love bananas.
I do love a very ripe banana. I mean, you've got to have a bit of sweetness in your smoothie, otherwise it just tastes like you're drinking a soup. So
I know. Or especially if you put greens in there, it just tastes like a herb garden.
Nobody wants that. And also, especially if you're feeding it to like a conure, they're a sweet beak. You've got to fill that criteria. So make sure that there's a little bit of safe sweetness in there for them with the banana. Again, it's really healthy as well. So it's a safe way to offer some sweetness. But our guys, they love a smoothie in moderation. Of course, it shouldn't be a huge part of your bird's diet, but for a special occasion, offering a little smoothie is great fun. It's great bonding as well.
Yeah. And they always love to have whatever we're having. So if we're drinking something or eating something, they're going to be like, hey, I want that too.
Mhm.
So it's a great way to get them to try. And now let's talk a little bit about some seasonal fall foods.
Mhm.
So what types of fruits and veggies do your birds really like? And what do you really like to offer them during this season? I know there's lots of like farmers markets and even at the grocery store, like all the local stuff and the fall produce is like out on the shelves now. And I think that it's a really great opportunity to switch up the variety that we're offering in Chop and what our birds are eating and getting more of those nutrients that we don't get all year round.
Yeah,
I'll
I
start
mean,
with fruit. I know
yeah.
apples are huge right now. There
Oh
are
yeah.
apples everywhere and every kind of apple you can think of. I've been eating so many apples, like I think they're coming out of my ears.
I mean, again, apples are fantastic, lots of nutrition, but they are one of the fruits that are higher in sugar. So
Mhm.
again, it's one of those ones you don't want to be offering it every day. You don't want huge portion sizes, which is a huge thing as well. You don't want to be giving like a whole slice of apple to your conure because they are going to be bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
Fruit sugar is perfectly healthy, but we don't want to be having like majority fruit and a little bit of veg in your bird's diet for the most part, anyway, for most species. So apples are brilliant to offer, and you know go wild with it and try the different types, see which ones they prefer. Our guys like the red apples, so do I. It's a bit sweeter, it's not like the tart ones, but you
Yeah.
can also
I
go
love
for
the
like
pink ladies.
yeah, they're nice, they're a bit
Or
expensive.
there's ones I think it's like Jonah Prince.
Oh, very
I don't
exotic.
know. Is that what they're called? I think they're called, or maybe it's just Jonah. I don't know, but they're like so crispy and delicious and crunchy. I also love going apple picking, and now is the season. And September, October, I feel like is like the cusp of the apple picking season. And then
Yeah.
you're getting like fresh, organic, usually, hopefully, apples, and you're getting it fresh from the source, like you're picking it from the tree, and that's as fresh as it can get.
If you have somewhere like that local, go for it. I don't, sadly. I would love to be.
Oh.
I know it's tiny violin for me, but it would be amazing. And if you do have that locally, then definitely go and get involved in that because it's a great fun activity, and then you know actually where your food is coming from. The other cool thing to offer this time of year is like blackberries. They're quite in
Oh.
season at the moment, because you can see them on the little bushes and stuff. So that's quite a wintry kind of autumny fruit to offer. Again, they make a huge mess. Anytime I give it to the birds, it's
I know.
all over the floor, and all over their beaks as well. Pickles always gets on their head. I don't know
Yeah.
how. But again, loads of nutrition, loads of antioxidants in there, and just something else that you may not offer year round that could be really good. And again, you could go blackberry picking as long as there's not bird flu in your area. That could be really fun to do as well.
Yeah. And if your bird is harness trained, you can always
Mhm.
bring them with you.
They can select their own. I mean, it's literally
Yeah.
pick
As
your
long as
own
it's a
your
nice,
bird.
sunny, warm day.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah. I was actually looking to see what fall fresh foods are really in season right now, and apples was, of course, number one. Another one was pears, and I've been
Okay.
seeing pears right beside the apples. So pears are another one. Cranberries,
Yeah, cranberry.
pomegranates.
Oh yeah, as had pomegranate this week. They love a pomegranate.
Oh, Mia loves pomegranate. As soon as she sees it, she's like, "Is that what I think it is?" Or that's what I imagine she's saying in her head, and she just scurries over. And like they're so delicious and crunchy and juicy. I love them just as much as she does, I think.
Even our cockatiels like them because they're like little seeds, right? And
Yeah.
cockatiels aren't really big fruit eaters, but when the fruit is kind of seed-like, they're like, go on then, let's indulge, let's have some.
I didn't know that about cockatiels. So they're not
Mhm.
crazy about fruit. They don't have a sweet beak.
No, they definitely don't have a sweet beak, and fruit isn't really a huge part of their diet in the wild anyway. Chip really isn't into fruit at all. He'll have a little bit here and there, whereas fish, he loves banana. If we get the banana out, he's like, "Come my way." He loves
I'll do
indulging,
anything for that.
basically, yeah. Which is unusual for cockatiels because again, they really are not normally bothered by it. So, if you can
Oh.
maybe try a few things out and see if your bird likes it, then go for it.
Yeah, figs are another one that I was seeing at
Mm,
the store.
love a
So,
fig.
yeah, and I think a lot of birds, I always see online a lot of like freeze-dried figs or fresh figs, and they love it. And Mia loves it too.
So
There's just something about it.
a lot of wild parrots have figs as part of their diet as well. So again, it's kind of like you're mimicking the wild a little bit. Obviously, our figs are nothing like wild figs, but it's still similar. It's still something they would naturally eat. So definitely worth including as well. But another high sugar fruit, I think, anyway. So yeah, be careful.
I feel like all fruit just has sugar. I mean, some are higher in sugar than others, definitely the tropical fruits and like the juicy apples. But the berries probably have a little bit less, but still the thing with fruit is you want to always feed it in moderation and in small amounts and not overdo it or make the whole diet fruit. Just like us. We need a little treat once in a while. Just our treats aren't always fruit. Sometimes they're chocolate bars or donuts.
I mean, quite a few chocolate bars for me, but yeah, as you said, the berries like your strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries are very low sugar, even though they're really nice and sweet. So if you are worried about it at all, you want to mix it up, then go for the berries. But there's nothing to say they can't have some of the higher sugar fruits. It's all about portion size. And David and I always say, take a green cheek conure, for example. If you think about the portion size for fruit, you want to be going for about the size of half a grape a day, because if you think about a grape, to us that's really small, it's just a little grape. To a conure, that's the size of its head. So if you're offering like the size of their head for fruit every day, and then you wonder why maybe they haven't eaten many of their vegetables or their sprouts, and it's because they're filling up on their fruit, just bear in mind the actual size of your bird, the tiny little size of their crop, and how much you're actually offering of different things.
Yeah. And every time you tell me that this is something that parrots eat in the wild, I go and I'm like, that's it. I got to get it because I got to mimic the wild. And last time we talked about mulberries, and then I went and found mulberries, and Mia's been enjoying those. And now I'm going to go get some figs. We won't overdo it, I promise. Let's talk a little bit about the vegetables that are in season right now that you can probably find at your farmer's market or grocery store and that are really healthy and safe for our birds. So we talked about pumpkins a lot. So we know pumpkins is one of those. The other thing that I think of immediately when it comes to fall is like squash and carrots and zucchini and beets.
Yeah, all the good stuff, all the sort of earthy kind of root veg. I mean, there's so many different types of squash, but for some reason in the UK, all we get is like butternut squash.
Same in Poland.
We'd love some more variety. I'd love to try like a spaghetti squash. They look really tasty.
Yes. Oh my God, I love spaghetti squash, but I haven't had it since Canada. And you know what else I find really hard to get here? Kale. Spinach, no problem. But I almost never see kale at the supermarket. So Lidl, if you're listening, we need some kale. That's why I always like make sure that I have dried kale and like other dried veggies where, you know, I don't usually see them in the supermarket. And I think it also depends where you live. Sometimes you have access to certain fruits and veggies and sometimes you don't. So when I don't have access to something, I just look for a freeze dried or dried version so that I can still offer those things to Mia.
For sure. Although what you could do is grow some kale microgreens. So I did my microgreens video, and the microgreens version is actually healthier than the actual big kale plant. So if you grow it at home on your windowsill,
I think they have like 10 times the nutrients or something like that.
Super nutrient dense. So she can still have like the benefits of kale, but like 10 times the amount, and then you don't have to go and buy it. You can just grow it at home. So that could be a good way of offering kale.
Brilliant. And you know what? My husband is super into microgreens, and like in the winter and the colder seasons, they do a lot better with growing. So he has this whole system and all these trays and like spraying and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm just going to enjoy the microgreens. You do it. But I love that you have a video on how to grow microgreens, because it seems like a really hard, long, complicated process, but it's really not.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really nutritious, and you can offer it to your bird, but it also is really nutritious for you. Like we would put it on sandwiches, in our salads, as like food toppings. Microgreens are great, and they have such a great taste too.
Yeah, they're really yummy. So with my video, I show chia, and they're slightly different in the sense that you don't soak them like you would. So if you were doing kale, the difference would be you would soak that for 8 to 12 hours in water with like a little bit of grapefruit seed extract or apple cider vinegar. And then you'd spread it on your tray and then start growing. Whereas the chia seeds, because they start to like swell up with water instantly, you don't have to soak them. So that would be the only difference. But if you can include microgreens in your diet and your bird's diet, your health is going to be like, woohoo, this is amazing, party.
I need some microgreens in my life right
I
now.
know, just get them straight in my body if desperately need some too. But as for like other sort of seasonal veg, root veg is very seasonal at the moment. Parsnips as well. I love a parsnip. Roasted parsnips, I make them quite well. I'm a terrible cook, but I can do roasted parsnips all right. And carrots, beetroot. Again, beetroot is super nutritious, but the mess it makes, I always
know,
wear
it turns
gloves when I
everything
prepare
like
it.
red pink. And if you add it to the chop,
Yeah.
it's gonna make the entire chop pink. So don't be alarmed.
And the poops. And the poops are going to be pink.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything's going to be stained, which is why I wear gloves to prep it, but then everything gets stained anyway. I get it all down my t-shirt. So beetroot is great to offer, but just be aware you're gonna get covered in it as well.
Yeah, it turns everything pink. It's just messy, just like berries.
Yeah.
And red pepper is another one of those that makes the poop turn into a scary color, where I've had people message me and be like, oh my gosh, why is my bird's poop this color? Or in that video, I saw Mia's poop was red. Is she okay? And I'm like, yeah, she just ate red peppers, or she ate beets.
And then she stained the carpet, and then she stained the couch.
Yeah.
Stains everywhere.
I find that even when I eat beets, this is a little TMI, but when I go to the bathroom, it's like pink water. And I'm like, what happened? Oh, I ate beets.
It means business.
Yeah. I also really enjoy this Polish soup, and we've chatted about this before, borscht, and it's like a red beet soup. So whenever I have that soup, my insides, I think, turn pink.
It's yummy. So if you haven't tried it, try it, because it's tasty.
What else? Oh, sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts. Finally, I found Brussels sprouts. I was so excited. I'm like, Mia's gonna be so happy. Actually, this whole summer, I waited all summer for like fresh peas, and they never came. I never saw them in any of the stores.
You don't really get them.
I don't know what happened. So I've been buying the frozen ones and just thawing them out. But I always like to get the fresh ones, and this year just didn't happen. So I was really excited when I saw the Brussels sprouts, and the broccoli is looking really nice this season too.
Yeah, love broccoli. You can get like the purple sprouting broccoli, which looks very exotic and fancy. Love that. There's so many different yummy veggies. In the UK, it's like really 50-50. You either love Brussels sprouts or you absolutely hate them. I personally absolutely love them. I have been known to eat a whole bowl of Brussels sprouts with a bit of salt, even a little bit of almond butter. Oh, the two together.
Wow.
And that sounds really gross, but honestly, it's really nice. And the other one was sweet potato, wasn't it? So
you know what? I've done weird things like that too, and they are really tasty. Although I don't do almond butter because I don't really like the taste of almond butter. And I have all these nut allergies that I just decided to stay away from all nuts and not take any chances. But I'm okay with peanuts and peanut butter. So I've drizzled like, really? You don't like peanut butter? Oh,
you can keep that one. I hate peanut butter.
Well, we're best friends on the Brussels sprouts, but the peanut butter and the almond butter. But I've done like cooked sweet potatoes before and drizzled with peanut butter, and it was delicious. I was like, why is this so delicious?
But yeah, sweet potatoes are really great. It's another one of those myth ones where people think you have to feed it cooked. It's perfectly safe raw for your bird. If you want to lightly steam it like the pumpkin for like 30 seconds in the microwave, again, it makes it a little bit more digestible, but it doesn't mean that raw is unsafe. Raw is perfectly safe to offer. So if you can, definitely include it in your bird's diet. Lots of nutrition, again, more vitamin A in there. Those orangey kind of vegetables are full of vitamin A, which so many birds, I keep saying this anytime I mention it, but so many birds are deficient in vitamin A. So it's really important to include. And the problem is you often find it with birds who are on mostly seed diets, but also sometimes birds who are on a high pellet diet, because a lot of people don't realize how volatile the synthetic vitamin A is in pellets. So if your pellets come into contact with light or air, quite often the vitamin A starts to break down. So the storage recommendation is often to keep it in the packet it comes in and put it in the freezer and just take out what you need, because it's the vitamin A is so volatile that by the time you get to the end of the bag, if you haven't stored it correctly, sometimes there's not even any vitamin A in there. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah. I mean, as long as like they're not expired, if they're not in the freezer, they're still okay. But the vitamin A just decreases every time. That's a really good tip, to put the pellets in the freezer. And I mean, I know we feed the same pellets, Harrison's and Tops, and those are both safe in the freezer, right?
I mean, we only really feed Tops currently, but
Okay.
you can put both of those in the freezer if you want to and take them out. You don't have to, because, you know, for example, with us, Tops is like a little extra that we do in the dry mix. We don't personally store it in the freezer right now because I know that my birds are getting all of the vitamins and minerals they need from the real food, but it's just like a little extra, a little added yummy. But if you want to store it in the freezer, keep it in the same bag it comes in. You'll notice that some of the pellets, they come in bags that don't have that sort of see-through window, so you can't see them inside, and that means that no light's getting to it, which is great. But, you know, if you're leaving the bag open, you're not sealing it properly, that kind of thing, then some of those things will start to degrade over time. So if you want like to completely maximize any nutrition that's in there, keep it in the original packaging and store it in the freezer, and make sure you always do the little zip thing and get all the air out.
Yeah. Have you ever tried any of like the bird food, like a Nutriberry or pellets?
How can I be diplomatic? I've tried some of the pellets that are colourful and they taste like cereal. So if you're feeding those, please don't.
Stop.
Something that's really interesting. So we often say, you know, these colourful pellets, if they're all brightly coloured, they're probably not going to be very good for your bird. I mean, we've got so much content about pellets on our channels about what's actually in them and what they do to the body. But what's really interesting is certain brands, and we're not going to say anything because we don't want to get sued today, but certain brands have actually been banned in the UK and in the EU because of the colours and the preservatives and the additives that they're using. It's not up to our standards. So bear that in mind. If it's getting banned in some places in the world, feeding it, I don't know. I won't say
this happens a lot with like human foods and pet foods. And I feel like the EU and the UK is like really strict, and I love that. But if you're outside of the EU and the UK, then you really want to be checking those ingredients. And I mean, both of us talk about on our channels and our social media about the really good high quality pellets that you can offer your birds. So it's just better to go with those trusted brands and not fall into the marketing of like, oh, they're colorful, they're pretty, my bird will like it, or it's banana shaped, it's cute. Those are all marketing tactics. And if, you know, we have a taste tester now, Sophie has tried those pellets and they taste like cereal. And even I know, and I'm sure you do too, like if you have cereal like for breakfast, I just get like this sugar rush, you know? So what do you think's happening in your bird's body? So the quality of the pellets are really important.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that we always say, again, we're not gonna make this a pellet discussion, but just as like a finishing point, have a look at the ingredients list of the pellet that you want to feed or are feeding. Do you know what these ingredients are? Are there like so many of them? Do you actually recognize them? Is this the sort of thing that you want to actually putting it into your bird's body? How are they processed? You know, there's a lot of things to consider there. So it's always good to know what's actually going on in your bird's food, and do, you know, some more investigating.
Yeah, 100%. So we talked about all this fun stuff. Let's get into the trick or tweeting.
Oh.
When I thought of that, I'm like, that is so clever. I hope that Sophie laughs.
I love it.
And everybody listening. Speaking of a trick or tweeting, I saw your video that you did recently on the top 5 treats to offer small birds. So I'll let you talk about what those are, and then we can talk more about the different types of treats that you can offer your bird, whether they're trick or tweeting on Halloween or just overall for training and rewarding and special occasions, because that's what we want to leave treats for, is those types of things and not a regular thing in their diet.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to make sure what you're offering as a treat is actually reinforcing. So, you know, if you're offering, say, for example, if I offered Pickles pumpkin seed for treats, she'd be like, that is a trick. I don't want to work for that. that is awful. How dare you? You know, this is parrot abuse. But if I offer her a sunflower seed, she's gonna be like, okay, what are we doing here then? So it really depends on your individual bird, which is why it's useful to do a treat hierarchy test. You know, lay some treats out in front of your birds, see what they're going for first, second, and third, and then take those out of the diet and just use them for training and foraging. But some of the best ones to offer and to try with your bird includes hemp seeds. We offer them in the shell because it's fun to crack the shell open and get the treat inside. Sunflower seeds, again, they're kind of demonized, but that's for people who like only feed sunflower seeds. That's
Right.
their thing. Safflower seeds are great, but you often can't get human grade versions, which is kind of lame. So you have to like pick them out of the seed mixes yourself. Walnuts are a superfood high in omega-3 fatty acids.
Those are Mia's favorite.
Amazing. And millet as well. Millet is really great to offer. It's high protein, low fat. Again, everyone thinks that all seeds are high fat, but they're not. But for us, we always say when you're offering millet, especially if you are fairly bonded to your bird, just break off the little buds. Don't offer the whole like sprig, because they can be like, is that a snake? Like, am I getting the whole thing for this one behavior? Just break off the little buds and offer it that way, and then you'll have more sort of portion control success with training.
Yeah, especially with training, like if you have the whole wand or stick, whatever it's called, if you give them, you know, the millet and they're nibbling on it and then you're taking it away, then it gets confusing for your bird. So I really like that you mentioned that, and breaking off a small piece and then giving that to them so that they can enjoy it and know, oh, this is my reward for this behavior, or because I did this.
Yeah, exactly.
Mia also loves walnuts. Those are her favorite. And I love walnuts because for her, it's a high value treat or reward. And you can break it up into smaller pieces. And if your bird is bigger, then you can leave it in bigger chunks. So I love nuts like that, where they're like versatile. You can change the size. And I know you've talked about this a few times before. Sunflower seeds are great, and a lot of small parrots really love them. And if you get them out of the shell, I know that you break them in half. So then you've got 2 out of 1 sunflower seed, 2 training sessions.
Definitely. There's nothing wrong with offering the sunflower seeds in the shell. It just means that you're offering a really big treat for just one behavior, and then your bird may get full up quicker. So if you're using smaller treats, because generally speaking for treats, you want your bird to be kind of like chomp, 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 I'm done, ready for the next behavior. If they're just sat there like snacking away, they're going to kind of forget what they even earned it for, and they're spending all their time snacking. Their motivation may drop and enthusiasm. So you want to be having literal like bite-sized pieces. So when you break the sunflower seeds into smaller bits, then, you know, you get more for your money, so to speak.
Yeah. And what I found really interesting from your video is that your number 1 was hemp seeds. Your birds love hemp seeds.
Yeah.
And I was like, how interesting. I thought it was going to be like sunflower seeds or safflower or like almond or pistachio or walnut. So I was so surprised when you were like, number 1 is hemp seeds. Drum roll.
Yeah, no, it's every single one of my birds will do anything for a hemp seed, especially when it's in the shell. We've tried out the shell and they're like, it's cool, but it's not as fun as, you know, breaking apart the shell. And again, they're perfect because they are the perfect portion size. They break open the shell, eat the little hemp heart inside, and then they're ready to go again. And then you can put them in those little treat straws that I make, or you can put them like in foraging trays and stuff. And they're so healthy. You know, again, they're high in omega-3 fatty acids, which are great for reducing inflammation in the body, healthy fats that we keep saying. And there's lots of other nutrition in there. So if you can offer your bird hemp seeds, see if they like it, try it a few times. It's really worth having in the diet and seeing if maybe they could be high value for your bird.
Yeah, absolutely. And do hemp seeds also have like a calming effect on birds?
They can do. Yeah, obviously, when we talk about calming foods, it's not going to completely like zen them out.
Yeah.
But, you know, different foods combined, like.
It's not that kind of hemp.
No, it's definitely not that kind of hemp. So don't worry if you're like, why are they suggesting that? It's not that kind of one. It's safe. So hemp seeds, different types of mint, mint lemon balm, lavender, tulsi. There's loads of calming food to birds. Got a video on that on my channel. But they're not going to completely chill your bird out. But if you are looking for kind of calming foods and your bird's maybe a little bit stressed, there's nothing wrong with including these in the diet and seeing if it just kind of takes the edge off a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. What are some other fun treats that we can offer I also mentioned pistachios. I know
Mhm.
Mango loves pistachios like your birds love the hemp seeds because he'd love to crack open the shell. So that was always like a jackpot reward for him because he gets to like crack open that shell. But Mia's beak is not as strong as his. He's a sun conure. She's a green cheek. And I find that I don't think would be able to crack open like a fully sealed pistachio, but that's really fun for birds that have strong beaks or are bigger. And again, the pistachio, you can cut it up into smaller pieces. I also find that Mia really loves almonds. I think it's because they're a little bit sweeter and she loves that crunch as well. But another great treat that's perfectly sized is pine nuts.
Yeah, and only Charlie likes pine nuts here. You know, there's a like for
One
example,
out of 8 birds.
1 out of 8. Bird Tricks talks about pine nuts all the time, which is great that it works for so many birds they work with. But for my birds, only Charlie likes pine nuts, and they're pretty high value for him. So we kind of reserve them for going back in the cage or doing something really cool or like a jackpot reward. But the rest of my birds just don't really like them. So that's why it's really important to do something like a treat hierarchy. See what your bird actually chooses. Do it several times. You can do it throughout the year because sometimes their preferences will change seasonally. I know Olive, other than walnut and things like that, and just about anything sweetbeak, one of her favorite treats or anything coconut related. She loves coconut oil off the spoon. She'll go and lick that. She loves coconut shreds, obviously all raw, freeze-dried coconut cubes. And I hate coconut. I hate the smell of it. I hate the taste of it.
Really, I love coconut.
No, there's so many sacrifices I make for these birds, including having to put up with coconut.
What about like dried coconut flakes?
Oh no, no coconut water. I don't even like the smell of it for like shampoo or anything. I can't be doing with it. And I want to like it, but every time I try, it's like, what?
Well, everybody's different and we like different scents and we have different tastes and, the chemistry of our bodies are all a little bit different. So we all have our preferences.
That's it. I'll leave it for Olive. She can enjoy.
So Olive is the only one from your flock that loves all things coconut.
I mean, most of the conures do like coconut, but if I show her like coconut on a spoon, she will fly to me. She's like, "Give me the coconut." So
and all olive oil, coconut oil is safe to offer to your bird in small amounts.
Also, I call her Olive Oil. That's one of many nicknames.
Oh, that's so cute. I didn't even
Olive
know
Oil.
when it accidentally just came out. It's like I knew.
Birdie
It's like we're connected.
Yeah, coconut oil, as long as it's raw, that kind of thing, and organic, perfectly safe to offer your bird. Again, got a video on that. It has loads
There's a
of
video for everything.
Basically. There's loads of
our channels and David's channel. I think there's a video for everything.
Basically, yeah, that's what we're trying to achieve here. But yeah, in moderation, there are so many health benefits, including balancing hormones, again, healthy fats and things like that. There's just so many amazing things that coconut oil can do for your bird. If you can get them to like it, you can sort of melt it slightly, drizzle it over their chop. You don't want to be mixing it into a whole batch, but daily you could do that. You can offer it on a spoon. If you're making a birdie bread, you can make it with coconut oil instead of a different type. So definitely investigate if you're not aware of coconut oil benefits for birds.
Ooh, today I learned. So Mia's gonna try some coconut oil. I love this because every time I'm always like learning something new to enrich Mia's life even more and for her to have even more variety in her life.
It's always something new to learn, always.
Yeah. And that's the thing with, having pet birds, like they are difficult pets compared to some other pets. And there's a lot to know when it comes to being a responsible bird owner. And so that's one of the things is that we're always learning. We're constantly learning and there's always something new to learn. And there's always more information coming out and, all these videos are really informative as well. So yeah, I wanted to ask you some fun Halloween questions about your flock before we go. So let's start with my first question. If your parrots were to go trick or treating, what costumes would they dress as?
Oh, that's a really good question. I feel like Olive would be a princess. It's not very scary, but I think if she's going to dress up, she'd dress up as a princess.
Oh, I was just thinking the same for Mia.
I think Pickles would do well as like a little witch, being like a little chubby witch with a little hat on. That would be cute. I don't know, Scampi, who'd do well as like maybe a vampire. And Kipling would have to be a devil because he's an absolute monster when he wants to be. The little crimson shift in like behavior, when he can be sweet as pie and then an absolute monster. I think that would have to
He
be.
did the mash. He did the monster mash.
Exactly. What do you think for like Chip? What would you say for Chip, for example?
Chip and fish. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Could they be like, what is it from Dr. Seuss? This and that.
Thing 1 and thing 2.
Yeah, thing 1 and thing 2, this and that. Clearly, I haven't looked at a Dr. Seuss book in ages.
I knew what you meant, though. I knew
thing 1 and thing 2.
And
that
also,
would be so cute.
Louis would have to go as a pirate because he only has one leg.
Oh, that's really cute. Actually, that's a really cute costume.
Yeah, I think that's everybody. Oh, Charlie, we haven't done Charlie. He would be. What would he be?
A cute little pumpkin.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Or a scarecrow, like put like a little like straw hat and he can be a little scarecrow.
Either or a pumpkin scarecrow. Why not combine both? Who says there's rules in dressing up?
There we go. There are no rules. On Halloween, you can be anything you want to be.
Exactly.
Okay, if your parents hosted a Halloween party, what kind of beaktastic decorations would they put up?
I think probably just shredded paper. They probably like bite their own little garlands and things.
That's exactly what I was imagining. Just like shredded everything everywhere. Everything that's hanging is just like shredded paper.
And then crinkle paper just like hung from the ceiling like cobwebs. I think, yeah, that would probably be as far as they'd go with creativity.
And pumpkins. Maybe they could carve their own pumpkins.
They might. They very might.
But the carvings would be really messy.
They would be very spooky and very scary.
Okay, if your parents went on a ghost hunt, would they be scared of any paranormal beaktivity?
You've been on it with the puns, haven't you?
I had to. For Halloween, I had to. We're having fun.
Chip and fish, because of their cockatiels, they do suffer from night frights now and again. So they're scared of their own shadow sometimes. If one of their own feathers falls out in the night because they're molting, they're like, oh my goodness, it's a ghost. So I think Chip and fish would be
They would be scared. I knew they would be scared. And the conjurers are probably like, I'm not scared.
A little bit.
Okay, if your parents had a Halloween band, what would they call themselves? What would their band name be?
You're putting me on the spot with creativity.
I know. The Spooky Squawkers.
See, you're doing it for me. I was going to call them the Pumpkin Patch, but that's not very. I think we'll have to go with the Spooky Squawkers because I'm terrible.
But the Pumpkin Patch is so cute.
For me, like with our business name, Best Behaved Birds, with my YouTube name, BirdNerdSophie, it just like came to me in like a vision. Like I'm not very good at like, hey, let's sort of think about this, let's brainstorm. I literally just wait for the idea to come to me and I'm like, okay, we'll do that. That works. I'm not very good at on the spot like creativity.
Tell everybody how they can find you on social media. In the introduction, I already told them, but let them know how they can find you and your business.
So my username is BirdNerdSophie. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, just at BirdNerdSophie. And then our business is Best Behaved Birds. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Best Behaved Birds, and our website is www.bestbehavedbirds.com.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a consultation because you need help with behavior, training, diet conversion, literally anything, Sophie and David are going to help you, and you are in great hands.
Thank you. We'll do our very best, as long as it's not medical related, because we are not vets. We are bird trainers. We can help you with all kinds of things. But if it is medical related, go to your avian vet, get your bird checked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, since you mentioned that, I saw that you did a Q&A and someone had asked you how often you should take your bird for a vet checkup. Mm-hmm. And I know you answered that on social media, but I'll let you quickly answer that. because I know it's a little bit different from what I saw in your post in the UK compared to us over here. We go for an annual visit, but I actually go sometimes every 6 months because I'm a crazy bird mom. And so I usually take her like every 6 months, but our vet is always like an annual checkup is perfectly fine.
Yep.
But if there's something that you feel like something's wrong or I'm unsure or something's weird with the poops or anything, behavior or runny nose, go to the vet.
Yeah, if there's ever anything and you're not sure, don't message us. Go to your vet because we can't help you. Only your vet can help you with health-related concerns. But in different places in the world, it's very hard to get booked in for like annuals or even more frequent because there's just not enough avian vets out there. I know, for example, if I tried to get all 8 of my birds booked in regularly, it's just not going to happen. And in fact, some vets won't even see you unless there's actually some sort of health concern because they are so oversubscribed. They've got so many patients on hand because there's so few avian vets that's just kind of going and be like, oh, well, my bird's okay. I just want you to have a quick look. They'll be like, we've got other priorities here with birds that really need to be seen. And you may have to wait a really long time, if at all, to get an appointment just for like a general, here's my bird. There, nothing's unusual.
So it's always good to maybe book ahead, even if it's months ahead.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. And there is no shame in not doing annuals as well, because the risks of doing, for example, blood tests, there is massive risks with that. And, if you want to get bloods done for your bird, that's cool. But you have to bear in mind that with any kind of procedure, especially with birds, there will be a risk. So it's all about weighing things up. For us as well, not to kind of toot our own horns, but, we've been working with birds for a really long time. And I'm a super anxious individual. So if I think that something is at all unusual, you're the same. If there's anything at all unusual, I'm going to go to the vet anyway. I'm not just going to kind of wait for an annual, or I'm not just going to kind of wait it out. So just be hyper vigilant. If you think there's something wrong, go to the vet. It's always better to do that. I'm not saying never go to a vet, but I'm also saying if an annual exam is not something that's possible for you where you are in the world, that's completely fine as long as you take your bird to a vet when they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also the service that Vetster provides where you can book an avian vet online. And I know you and I are both affiliates with them. And that's always an option to do like a video call and talk with an avian vet and, let them see your bird on camera. I know it's not the same as in person, but it's better than nothing, especially if you just want to do a general like checkup or you have questions that are medical or anything like that.
Yeah, for example, like the amount of people I've had sending me videos like, what's wrong with my bird? And they're literally just crop clearing. An avian vet will be able to tell you it's normal. It's just crop clearing. Or regurgitation. It may just be like a hormonal bird, and they can explain that through video. That's a really great service. And I highly recommend, if you haven't already, to go and check out Vetster with Sandra's affiliate link, because it's great to have
Sophie's.
But I've got all my birds registered on there, so if I ever need to do it, I can just be like bam bam bam, book an appointment, off you go. And you can often get same day appointments, which I think is a really great service, and it's very affordable for what it is as well. And it's a lot cheaper than an appointment with my actual avian vet in person. So if you think that you're not quite sure, then go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to wrap things up. The last thing that we're going to talk about with everybody is just a few quick tips on Halloween Eve, because we know that on that day there's decorations, people are ringing the doorbell, people are dressed up, there's kids trick-or-treating, there's music playing, there's all kinds of spooky sounds. So what are some precautions that we can give people to keep their birds, safe and calm, especially if they have birds that are a little more scared, like cockatiels, or anxious? These loud sounds or all these trick-or-treaters might be scary and might be triggering for them.
Yeah, so make sure your bird has a night light when they go to bed. We always recommend not covering bird cages, or if you have to for your kind of setup, just do like the top third or the back and sides and leave the front open, because in fact not being able to see out is more scary than being able to see out and have a little night light and they go, okay, it's not a ghost or whatever it may be. there's the main girl herself. It's not like a scary thing, it's just, I don't know, a book's fallen over. It's not something super spooky or a predator coming to eat me. So that's important. You can play some calming music as well if you think that there's going to be noise outside. You can get your bird used to different kinds of sounds. For example, our birds couldn't care less about fireworks because we've done a lot of desense training with them. You can go for the calming foods as well that you mentioned, offer some of those
Mhm.
a little bit before bedtime. And if you are having any kind of celebration for Halloween, maybe have your bird in another room so they can be away from any decorations, any unsafe foods, any
Keep them
party
away from
goers.
candy.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't
Party
light
goers
any
want to
candles.
harass them. Yeah, basically just have them somewhere else that they can kind of do their own thing and not be in the middle of it, because it can be a bit overstimulating as well.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of candles, like with the pumpkins inside, instead of using an actual candle, you can use those LED ones. I actually have one up here,
Yeah.
and that's going to make sure that, it's a lot safer. Great. Awesome. Well, thank you, Sophie, so much for joining me and for talking about all things Halloween and pumpkin spice and everything birds.
Thank you for having me, as usual.